If you are here, you may have listened to the episode featuring Ebony Medas, where we talked about energy healing and how that can be useful for mental health care. If you haven't listened to that episode, please go back and listen to it and come back here. Here are some questions, some very poignant questions that I received from a few Instagram followers. If you don't already, please follow the podcast page at LUTD_podcast. And if you feel so inclined, support the show and donate to my Cash App, which is EFIE, EFI. So I'm going to move on from there to some questions that I got from my Instagram followers. A lot of people were very interested to learn more about Reiki. Some of the questions we answered already. So the first question I got was, what is Reiki? Start from the top, which we already answered. Next one was, how often do you need to go for stress management? I thought about this a lot. Is it when you no longer feel stressed, or as often as you need to go to help relieve everyday stressors? I feel like we kind of answered that, but if you want to add to that.
Yeah. So let me just reiterate to kind of combine the questions, just to want to say that, Reiki is a safe, a gentle, non-invasive form of natural hands-on healing. It's an energy-based healing that invites in a sense of balance and stress reduction into the body. And it's been around since the early 1900s. So it's a very well-known and trusted healing modality. And in terms of stress management, I would say that it's based on preference and finances, if I'm being really transparent. For some folks, they may go and love it, but if they don't live in a place where it's accessible, it impacts their ability to keep going. I would also say that based on the initial session that you have, you can also talk to your practitioner around what they sense and what they recommend, because I'm naturally an intuitive person, and when I got attuned, that accelerated in a way where I was not ready. So sometimes when I'm providing a session for a client, I get visions, messages come in, and I don't offer that to clients off bat. Like, some clients are just like, did anything come up? Can we talk about? And that's different. Practitioners do different things. But I always give it to the client and ask them what came up for them. So like if something, if they share something that was in alignment with, something that I noticed and I received, then that can help me give them best recommendation. I think if it's something that's new for you, have a session and see how you feel first before you sign up for 10. And if it's something that you respond well with and it resonates with you and you're seeing the benefits of it, and I say that very gently because some folks are just like, I didn't feel nothing on that table. That didn't work. It doesn't work like that. So I've had sessions where I forgot that I signed up for a remote session. And then like 2 days later, I'm like, whoa, what is going on? I'm a little bit more energetically sensitive, just naturally. And I'll be like, oh snap, I signed up with an energy healing session the other day. And I think I'm integrating. So like, there's certain things that you should just do to prepare your body pre and post. Okay. So you have to take all these factors into consideration. But I'll say this, once you go and you experience it, it's going to be hard not to want to incorporate it as much as you can, or appreciate the benefits of it and at least return or go back. So I would say try it first, see how you feel, but also it depends on accessibility and things like that. So for stress management, if it's chronic, I would say try bi-weekly for like a month. So like twice in a month, and then space it out monthly. But be mindful of the fact that like energy healing alone probably isn't going to take away the stress that you're experiencing. So you also want to make sure you're doing other things to address the stress. And I would say be mindful about using it only in times of crisis.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Therapists say that often.
Yes. It's like, I want to hear the good stuff too.
The next question is basically what you just answered. How often do you need Reiki to notice a change? And you said it's really dependent on why you're going, mostly, right?
Yeah, but also, like I said, you could have one session, and my first session, like I said, it kept me going back. I think I would have used it more regularly even sooner if financially at the time I could afford it. Once I mean, it's in my self-care regimen. Like the same way I pay, bills every month, self-care is included in that. So that
I
includes
love it.
therapy, and
Yeah.
that also includes Reiki and acupuncture, depending
Yeah.
upon the month. So like you figure out a way to do it, but as I mentioned earlier, there's centers that provide like community Reiki and like on us offer on a sliding scale, and then remote options. So many practitioners, if they're offering a remote, they've decreased the price, and some people are able to do that because if you're in person, you have to pay to rent the space, and there's other expenses. But offering it remotely kind of cuts that cost, so they just tack that off the top.
Okay. I'm going to combine the next two questions. How long does it take to become a Reiki master was the one. And then how does someone vet a Reiki practitioner?
So energetic vibe, I would say, and also if you reach out to them and they answer your questions and make you feel comfortable. Um, if it, you can't just pay attention to how long a person has been practicing. That doesn't automatically mean that, like, if someone's been, you know, it isn't an automatic, I should say, right? So, like, just because someone's been practicing Reiki for 10 years or a Reiki master versus a level 2 doesn't necessarily guarantee that the one is going to be better than the other. So it's important to ask questions, but to also see if they offer free consultations. So like you could do a quick Zoom to kind of just like check in and see how that feels, or if it's in person to kind of just say, is it time that do you offer a few moments at the beginning before we start to kind of check in? And then the other question that you asked was, how long does it take? So at the minimum, I would say they recommend for Reiki Master at least 3 years, because it's like level 1 and then a year in between, level 2, and then at least a year in between before level 3 Reiki Master level. But some people go quicker than that. For IET, like I offer the level 1 basic and level 2 intermediate in the same weekend. So you can do it from one day to the next. And then you practice it and work with it for a little while and then come back for advanced levels. So you can accelerate your training. But I would say that it's good practice to kind of just like use it for a little while and sit with it for a little while before moving on. But some people are able to do it. Some people, feel called to, want to advance a little bit more quickly, and that's okay too. As long as it's ethically done, there's no problem with that.
Awesome. Why choose Reiki over massage when thinking about a self-care practice? I feel like you got into this a lot from a personal perspective, but if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess a deeper connection to the energetic body and the channeling of the energy to kind of like support with clearing, to support with clarity, to be very intentional about what you're in there for. So like you can go sign up for a massage and they can miss your neck and your legs and you're just like, where, if you're going for energy healing, it's like, even if I stood over you with my hands in one specific area, the energy is going to channel to where it needs to go, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like I would say for me, I'm going to energy healing if I'm looking to intentionally engage with my body in a specific way and to do specific work.
Got it. And finally, how do you know your Reiki healing has been successfully transmitted?
You mean if it's like if you're in person versus a remote? Is that what that?
Well, that's all the question said. So I'm taking it to mean, how do you know it was successful, period?
Yeah. So I talked a little bit about this earlier, but like energy travels through time and space. So if you're doing a remote session, the energy is traveling to you. Again, it's anchored to be received when you're in a position of receiving it. But if you're there and the practitioner is attuned, so they have the attunement and the energy to kind of channel through, right? If they're doing the steps and using the sacred geometry to practice, it is being channeled. So successful transmission, I would say, naturally comes from that. I think people also look at success from the lens of, if I come in for something and it doesn't work, does that mean that, or it doesn't get fixed, does that mean it didn't work? No, because energy healing isn't specifically to kind of just like fix things. There's support there. It's there to support us with and through things, right? So sometimes it does. Sometimes it accelerates the process of healing. Sometimes it slows it down a little bit more, because we have things to kind of continue to unpeel before we can continue the healing journey. So if the practitioner is doing the things in the way they're supposed to do the things, it is being successfully transmitted.
So this was a really good one to me, because it really speaks to people who are descendants of enslaved Africans and other sorts of similar generational traumas. So this person asks, elaborate on the impact of generational trauma on the body and the ways in which Reiki can help us move towards our healing. As briefly as you can, I guess. Yes, I know that's actually, like kind of deep.
That is a very deep one. That was the one I remember when I read it. I was just kind of like, this is deep. There's so many layers to this. So like, all of our experiences, all of our memories, all of our actions, all that gets stored in our body. And you asked me earlier what brought me to IET. Hearing about that and the connection is what really made IET resonate with me. The idea of, clearing suppressed emotions and memories, like, things that we experienced at like 5 and 7 that we told ourselves does not matter anymore. But then we see at 25 and 27 that we're responding the same way, points out that like it's somewhere in there ingrained in us, and it's impacting how we're living our life and how we're being. Right? So like what energy healing does, specifically what IET is, it realigns our DNA. Each level works with a different pair of our DNA. So like we're clearing this, we're utilizing integration points to kind of work through releasing of energy stagnation, right? But we're also renewing our cellular memory map. So like if I'm working to like help someone, let's say someone hasn't spoken to their parents since they were 15 years old and now they're 30, and it's just kind of like, they don't matter to me. I don't really care. That doesn't bother me. But they've been having severe chronic stomach aches for years. Our stomach or like liver issues, right? So like our stomach and our abdominal area and such, that's where we harbor feelings of like stress. Like that's where we harbor feelings of like anger and resentment. Each of our organs is assigned to an emotion. So like sometimes we can feel something on a physical level and we're just like, I eat so healthy. Why am I the emotion? Our emotional body, it just happens to be felt in that specific area. So things like generational trauma and hardship, if we don't take the time to acknowledge these things, or to process these things, or to work through these things, it lives within our body.
Yeah, I've heard of that happening with cardiovascular issues. And people who kind of like hold in their emotions. They say they often, those folks end up with, cardiovascular issues. So that's crazy to me.
Pulling the issues, like, and that's where the slogan comes from, like getting the issues out of the tissues. So like through integration, triggering, releasing, through like a pull-out method in IET, and then integrating what there's an imbalance for. It's like a cleaning up. It's like, all right, I'm over here dusting, and then you go back and you can feel it, because if we're doing a pull-out technique and like, let's say my hand doesn't move or it's moving a little bit slower, it tells me that there's still work to be done there. And that's all in the power of our palm chakra from getting attuned, right? So it's a great way to kind of, and then with that technique too, we're bringing these things to the forefront and to the surface if they've been buried. So commonly you'll hear a person say like, I have not thought about what and this is me speaking hypothetically, like what my mom did to me in so long, and now I can't get it out of my head. Now they're in a position to talk about it and process it.
Wow.
So you talk through it. You go back to like, how did you feel then? How do you feel now? What can help you, work through that? So it's a great tool to kind of support with the things that we have suppressed, so that we can become, the idea is that by doing this work, we get more in alignment with our highest healing and highest good. And we can live the lives that we're supposed to live versus, being quote unquote weighed down by some of these things on the subconscious level.
Awesome.